You are tuning into Naphtali's new school of thoughts, right here on YouTube.
Naphtali's new school of thought. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe for news, politics, all truth and no lie.
Welcome to Naphtali's new school of thought, where the wisdom is heavy and the knowledge is taught. We're digging through the Bible, science and history, stripping back the veil and solving every mystery. Talking all the truth, so you can step inside the room. We're clearing out the shadows and the intellectual gloom. There's no gatekeeping here, no locks on the door, just a hunger for the facts and a thirst for something more. We don't deal in fiction, no lies or lullabies, no fairy tales to soothe you or the dust across your eyes. If you're looking for a dream state, move along the line, cause we're operating on a different design. If you wanna stay asleep, this is not the place for you. The comfort of the dark is a ghost you're clinging to, but the sun is rising high, breaking through the night. And once you see the truth, you can't unsee the light. Welcome to Naphtali's new school of thought, where the wisdom is heavy and the knowledge is taught. We're digging through the Bible, science and history, stripping back the veil and solving every mystery. Welcome to Naphtali's new school of thought, where the wisdom is heavy and the knowledge is taught. We're digging through the Bible, science and history, stripping back the veil and solving every mystery. So wide awake movement, no more nodding off, no more hush hush. From the scrolls to the stars, it's all connected. Yeah, we're all woke. Class is in session.
Most High is the greatest, yes, he's the greatest. From the bottom to the latest, every blessing never base. When I base, we gon' praise him. All my life he done saved me. No debate, no replacement. The Most High is the greatest. Most High is the greatest. No debate. Yes, High is the greatest. Check the fate. In the dark, he my light, he my way. Every step, every breath, every day. Let's go. They talk loud, but the truth don't shake. Nah, stand firm, I don't bend, I don't break. Never. From the block to the throne, I'm safe. I'm good. The Most High is the greatest. No debate. No debate. Yes, High is the greatest. Check the fate. The Most High is the greatest. No debate, no debate. Yes, High is the greatest. Check the fate.
Hey, most high bless to all of you out there. Thank you all so much for tuning in with your girl. It's your girl Naphtali, representing the new school of thought. Right now, I want to give a big old shout out to my sister, my very first member and sponsor to this channel. It's at the Sister Club. Thank you so much for joining and becoming a member. Thank you all so much for tuning in. But I'd like to thank the sister and as a response to your donation, I got a nice video for you that we made. So thank you again so much for your support. So those of you that want to join and become members, you will receive not only a shout out, but you'll also receive a video made specifically and specially just for you.
Oh yeah! Now dig this!
A special shout out coming through. Marlene at a reason, this groove's for you. For keeping that digital signal bright and helping us keep the StreamYard on all night. It's true, your contributions make it right. You're helping to keep the lights on. Yeah! For your amazing support and all you do. A massive thank you from the entire crew. You're helping to keep the lights on.
Just beautiful. But thank you so much again for becoming a member. And thank you so much for tuning in and for your support. And thank you, Jason Buckley. Thank you so much for coming in and checking us out today, checking me out today. Shalom to you. And Jody Southworth 369. Thank you so much for tuning in. And peace to you, Hoodoo in Louisiana Voodoo. All right. Thanks for tuning in, and much love to the chat. And what you got? You said, yo, beautiful people from a planet on the outskirts of 1 billion galaxies from a universe that is most likely also one of many. Well, most high bless to you at McCab 4291. All right, guys. So let's get started. So today we're going to be talking about, sorry for the delay in the video, guys. It's just, you know how it is, but I got a nice video prepared for you guys. So let's get ready to talk about Baal and Marduk today. Let's talk about Marduk. That's a name we don't hear too much about, is Marduk. He's around. He's always been around. He's been in the Bible, but we never knew. We always seen him as Baal, but we never seen his full name, which is Marduk. Okay. So, all right, let's get ready to start this presentation. I can't wait. I'm excited. I hope you guys are too, because this is going to be a good one. Get your notepads and your pens. If you have any questions, please, as always, I have questions and answers at the end. And if you want to come on and have a conversation with me, you can definitely come on and join in, and we can have a nice conversation about what we spoke on today. All right, so let's see here. I'm getting ready to share my screen. There we go. All right. Now, so what am I talking about today? So this presentation is called The Cesare Borgia Myth, Debunking the Biggest Lie in Religious Art. So right here, we have to our right, we have Marduk, the king of the gods of Babylon, and then we have Cesare Borgia. Now, those of you who know who Cesare Borgia is, he is, no, I don't have to explain. Let's just keep going through. So let's go ahead with my famous introduction. So I like to say that there is a hidden history that has been obfuscated from us. All right, so there's a hidden history, and it's up to us to uncover and to be able to dig in and to find the truth. And guess what? A lot of us are caught in the matrix, but a lot of us are waking up, and we're going to find the truth path to righteousness, correct? And I'd like to give a big warm welcome to my truth seekers, my independent thinkers, and my independent researchers. Shout out to you guys. Most high bless to all my truth seekers out there. We're all about the truth, nothing but the truth. So help us, God, right? Most high God, right? But all right. All right. So who is this? This image here, right? We see him all the time. He's everywhere. He's in your grandmother's kitchen. He's above your auntie's refrigerator, the Lord's Supper. You see his image on the t-shirts. He's in the pulpit of your church. He's somewhere. You always see this image. And right here, this is a image right here. We have our rappers. You know, they have this iconic Jesus piece. You know, they're even on their chains. He's on their chains. Like, who is this? Who is this iconic figure? You know, and like I said, he's on your church altars. You know, he gets the title Jesus Christ. You know, this image, this person right here gets the title of Jesus Christ. He gets the title of our Lord and our Savior. Who is this image? Now, shout out to Bishop Nathaniel. Let me make sure you guys can hear this. 1 second. Let me make sure. All right, as always, make sure you guys can hear this doesn't play on here, but that's okay because I have it saved. You know, I'm prepared. But anyway, so we got Bishop Nathaniel, and we're going to listen to what One West, a lot of them teach about where this image came from. And then we're going to, you know, take a look at what they're speaking of, look at the information and the historical references that are out there, see if that actually aligns with history, and then take a deeper dive into finding out who this image belongs to and who they are really.
I'm Bishop Nathaniel. I'm the founder of Israel United in Christ, founded in 2003. We teach that the Blacks and Latinos, Native American Indians, are part of the 12 tribes of Israel, spoken of in the Holy Bible. Our job is to inspire and motivate our people to change their lives, to come back to God's laws, his moral laws, civil laws, ceremonial laws, and dietary laws. And that will improve the race and prepare us for the second coming of Christ.
Perfect. Beautifully said. Thank you for that.
Yes, sir.
You know, you've said some controversial things over the years, right?
A lot.
A lot. Mm-hmm. One of the things that probably some people would see as controversial, I don't, is that you say the Bible was written by a black man.
Yes.
And I, you know, to me, I always wondered, like, you know, it's like, how is it that Jesus happens to look like he could be my brother? You know, when there's a whole world of Asians and blacks and Native Americans and Indians and all these other things, but Jesus happens to look like my cousin.
Correct. That was first painted by Leonardo da Vinci around 1400s. He used Pope Alexander VI's son, whose name was Cesare Borgia, as the model of the new Jesus Christ, the Renaissance Jesus. That's who everyone prays to in the world, who everyone believes is Jesus Christ. I just came from Liberia, and
but tell me more about that character that was the model, because in your Instagram post you give more detail about him.
Yes, Cesare Borgia, he had sex with his sister Lucrezia. He was he killed a lot of people through poison. His whole family would poison people. His father, Rodrigo Borgia, posed for the image of God done by Leonardo da Vinci on the Sistine Chapel. His sister Lucrezia posed for Mary that Leonardo painted, and Caesar was Jesus the Christ. The whole thing was non-biblical. You find no biblical descriptions of that type, like he came from Spain, that Christ came from Spain, France, or any European country. Christ never went to Europe, never seen Europe. He was always on the northeast coast of Africa, which they call Israel today. That is the land of Canaan. So that's where Christ came from. He was born there. That is Africa.
So Leonardo took some creative license there.
Oh, yes. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. When you read Job 9:24, it says, the earth...
See, here you go again.
The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covers the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? So what did Leonardo do? He saw the description of Christ in the Bible, Revelation 1:14-15, Daniel 10:5-6, which describes Jesus as having woolly hair, skin like polished brass burned in a furnace, meaning dark, very dark. Mm-hmm. He read that and said, the Pope said, I don't like that. We must change that. So they chose Cesare Borgia to be the new model of Jesus.
And isn't that what a lot of religions do? Is they depict their idols or whatever leaders as
well, not pretty much
versions of themselves.
When you think about it, like China, those in Buddhism, they worship Buddha. It looks like them. Mm-hmm. In India, some of them worship Vishnu or Vashti. That looks like them. When it comes to black people and white people, you worship a God that looks like you. But when it comes to our people, our race, we were forced into submission to worship a strange God that doesn't look like us. We are pretty much the only race that will worship a God that looks like the very people that enslaved us and destroyed our families. We're the only race that does that. So our goal and job is to wake our people up. And the Bible tells you that. Yes, Mark, the Bible tells you that.
All right, guys. So that was actually a relatively new video, that interview that Bishop Nathaniel had just did. And he pretty much spoke on the Cesare Borgia, saying that that's where the image that we get this so-called white Jesus from. Now, I have my reservations about some of the things he said in that interview. I may do a response to some of the things he said, but right now we're going to talk about this right here. So let's talk. So he's saying that Cesare Borgia, the Pope, said that he wanted his son to be the image that we see today as so-called white Jesus, right? He said that the Pope said, I want my son to be it. And they took Cesare Borgia and they made him the face. You guys might have seen some of these posts all around your social media. It says, for centuries, the world has been fed a European face of faith. But what if the image was never accurate? This isn't Jesus Christ. This it says Cesare Borgia, son of Pope Alexander VI, born in 1475. He was the Renaissance politician, infamous for murder, incest, and ruthless ambition. He killed his own brother and allegedly had incestuous relations with his own sister, Lucrezia. He died violently in battle at 31 in 1507. So why does his face haunt cathedrals worldwide? During the Renaissance, the Borgia family commissioned artists to depict Christ in Caesar's image, a strategic move to Europeanize Christianity and consolidate power. The portrait became the template for Jesus across the Western world, creating the historical reality of a Middle Eastern Jewish man. This wasn't accidental, it was propaganda. The same system that colonized continents also colonized consciousness, replacing truth with power, preferred narrative. For centuries, billions have worshipped an image rooted not in scripture, but in Renaissance, politics, and European supremacy. If they could rewrite the face of faith itself, what else have they rewritten? Now, I give them an applause for this. This is really powerful. You know, back then, I too believed, and I really, thought that this is the image came from Cesare Borgia, but that's not where this image came from. The further you start to investigate, the further you start to dig, the further you start to do research, you start to realize that this image is older than Cesare Borgia. Okay, and so who is he again? So Cesare Borgia, he was an Italian, and he was the son of a pope. What ended up happening is that he looked like the so-called image of Jesus. He resembled that image, which was a very which was a high honor for him, the Pope and his son, of course, to look like this image. But we know that this image is not Christ. So who is this image? This image is Marduk, and we're going to talk about that in just a second. But let's talk about the problem. So when we do research, and of course, these people are going to come at us. They're going to come at us with history and facts. Of course, they're in charge. A lot of them are in charge of the narrative. But when we look at the historical sources, for instance, this one to the right is 4th century, Christ with the beard. This isn't found in the catacombs. Rome, Italy, this was backdated 4th century, which is about 300 BC, 400. So this is about 300. So Cesare Borgia is about 1500s. This is about 300. So this predates him about 1200 years. So yes, you guys can say this too and say, well, they probably made that up. They probably changed it. Well, they don't have to make it up and they don't have to change it. The thing is that this image, we know is not Christ. The thing is we have to know who it belongs to and what they're trying to do. And we're getting ready to solve that problem right now. So Ephesians 6:12 is a really great example of what's going on, because to think that our people would bow down and kneel and pray and give homage to an image that is just of a simple white man shows it's kind of belittling to us, right? To say that we'll put so much power in an image, because this image has been able to live on longer, long Cesare Borgia has come and gone. Nobody even knows what the Pope looks like. That Pope looks like anymore. But for some reason, we know who his son is, and to put that much power of his son in our, and to say that we have given this much homage to his son, no, that's not what's going on. As it says in Ephesians 6:12, it says, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places." So this is more of a spiritual thing. This is more of a principality. This is much more of a wickedness, spiritual wickedness. Okay, this is not just something simple as just some man who father wanted him to become the image of Christ and deified him. No, there is a spiritual connection behind this, because think about it. This image, people are wearing these images, people are bowing down, they're praying. I mean, this is much more complex than just, believing in so-called, just taking an image and making it, deifying an image, correct? So let's look at some historical sources here. So there's something called white gods all throughout history, okay? So there's something about white gods, white deities. And a lot of historical or ancient civilizations spoke of being visited by so-called white gods. So for instance, one in particular is, let me zoom in so you guys can see. And this is just a simple Wikipedia source. But they say white gods is the pseudo-historical belief that ancient cultures around the world were visited by white races in ancient times, and that they were known as white gods. Now, some authors have claimed that white missionaries or gods visited the Americas before Christopher Columbus. Authors usually quote from mythology and legends, which discuss ancient gods such as Quetzalcoatl. And it says, to conclude that the legends were actually based on Caucasians visiting those areas, and that the Caucasians were really the gods. Now, we know that Christopher Columbus came to the Americas, and there is a narrative that they like to speak on to say that they submitted and surrendered everything to Christopher Columbus, the Aztecs, because they thought that they were the white gods. I'm not saying that, because they know exactly who their gods are. What I'm saying is that they are the offspring of those gods. Yes, see, I took it another step, and we're going to talk about that even more. Yes, they are the offspring, what we call the Nephilim, right? The offspring of the fallen angels. They were held to a higher standard because of the fact that they had the blood of the fallen angel, or they were Nephilim. And that's why they were able to have this story, or what we hear about Quetzalcoatl. And also, we keep going down. Viracocha is the other one. He was considered to be a white god. Quetzalcoatl, Viracocha. And then when we keep going down further, you keep reading, it says, the shadow of Atlantis claimed that the Celtic people have reports and legends of a white bearded man who they called Turu or Zane, who had come from the east, taught the people agriculture, and later disappeared in an eastern direction. What does that sound like? That sounds like the book of Enoch. The angels came down and they provided knowledge to man. And that's what a lot of these deities are said to have done. They came down and they provided knowledge, and they came and they went back up. That's what the book of Enoch talks about. Now, when you look at the offspring of the fallen angels, their offspring tend to have what? White skin. And we're going to talk about that, or pale skin, in just a second. But this was talking about the Mesoamerican gods were considered to be white. Quetzalcoatl, Viracocha, the Amoru, those deities, as well as the Celtics, they spoke of white bearded men. And then here's a little bit more mentioning the Popol Vuh. Now, those of you that are familiar with the Popol Vuh, this is the writings of the Mayans. And the Mayans talked about, they have a creation narrative, and they talked about these deities coming down. And it says, according to the Popol Vuh, the sacred book that contains one of the most prominent theories about the creation of man, we read the following. It says, those was only one man, one animal, bird, fish, crab, wood, stone, cave, cliff, grass, forest. Only the sky existed. The face of the earth did not appear. There were only limited seas, the air-strewn speed of the sky. There was nothing except the orderly heavenly beings watchfully surveying was still in the sky. So this is speaking of what the book of Enoch talks about. These heavenly beings, right? Watching over, looking down. Isn't that what the book of Enoch speaks of? The watchers looking down. Well, this is what the Popol Vuh, this is what the Mayans spoke of. It says, there came the white one from far over the dwellers within the mighty sky. In otherness, in the world, it was held by Tizaname, the plumbed in between. They spoke, they took counsel. There was an understanding, and they joined their words, their wisdom. Then they circulated at the time of dawn. They dedicated to build it as man while understanding advice of the procreation. So right here, this speaks of the Mesoamericans worship gods. They said they believed to be white bearded gods who came down and taught them many things that allowed the development of their civilizations. This is what they spoke of, and we know that that aligns perfectly. So the Popol Vuh aligns perfectly with the book of Enoch. So the Mesoamericans worship Quetzalcoatl, Kukulkan, Viracocha, as well as the Amaru, which were all considered to be the plum-feathered serpent. Okay, which they said were white bearded gods. So this whole narrative about a white bearded god did not start with Cesare Borgia. It actually started with what these other civilizations talked about and being visited by white bearded gods. So first we started off with who? Mesoamericans. The next is our people here in the Congo, our people over there in Africa. They spoke of white-skinned god by the name of Mbambo, who came down and he gave them knowledge. Okay, so right here, it says Mbambo was a giant white-skinned being who came from heaven, from the heavens at the beginning of time. He descended from the sky and walked the earth, covered in the water and in darkness. So their story is that he felt intense pain in his stomach, vomited. From his vomit came the sun. But, you know, we don't have to get into all of their narrative, but what we do understand is that they accredit a white-skinned being or giant that descended from the heavens, which came down and provided them knowledge, okay? And they said that he was one of the primordial ancestors. Now, that was there in the Congo. They give homage to this white-skinned deity. Then we go to Yoruba, the Yoruba with Obatala, or the white Orishas. Now, they also, the Yoruba people, they speak on now, they say here, in the Yoruba religion and its diaspora, such as Santeria and Candomblé, the Orishas are divine beings who intercede between Oludumare, the supreme creator, and humanity. White gods, or Orishas, Fun, refer specifically to Obatala and his pantheon. They are deities of creation, purity, and enlightenment, represented entirely by the color white. All right. So their offerings were white sesame seed, rice, coconuts, palm, wine, honey, white flowers. They said he did not accept animal sacrifice. But here we have these deities that came down. This is Obatala in Brazil. This is a rendition of him in Brazil right here. And then they have another rendition of him right here in Africa, Yoruba. Now, for the Yoruba people. Now, you see here, they have an image of this, white Jesus right there on a crucifix. And what they said was, they said that they, I don't know how they tricked them or they made them. I don't want to speak like I know for sure, but from what I've read, it's that he seems so familiar to the white Jesus that they went on and just linked them both together, linked their God to the white Jesus, and pretty much are saying that they're pretty much the same deity, which I will agree with that. I will agree with that, that this white Jesus is this deity here. It's the same thing, same narrative, same story, both coming down, both providing knowledge, and both are, white beings, and giving people knowledge and requiring worship, So like I said, we just looked at two groups in Mesoamerica, and we came all the way here to Africa. And also there also had white deities over there in the Celtic area. So in Europe. So they all have these white deities that came down, these white bearded so-called gods, and they all provided them knowledge, which is what the book of Enoch talks about. Now let's talk about the book of Enoch. Let's talk about this, because in the book of Enoch, it says, in the days of Methuselah, his son Lamech this is Enoch 106. It says, the book of Methuselah, Lamech's fear of Noah, a misunderstanding of the sons of the fallen angels. It says, in the days of Methuselah, his son Lamech was afraid when Noah was born because of his unusual appearance. Lamech mistook him for one of the offspring of the fallen angels. To know the truth, Methuselah went to his father Enoch to inquire. So what did it say? His body was white like snow, red like the flower of a rose, his hair white like wool, his eyes like the rays of sun. When he opened his eyes, he made the whole house bright. That was in the Enoch book of Methuselah 106:2, 106:2 through 106:10. So what does it say? His body was white like snow. Now, what was going on with Noah? Noah was clearly an albino, right? Suffering from albinism. However, this gives us an outlook on what the offspring of the fallen angels look like. They were void of melanin. They were pale skinned. They were what we would consider to be white skinned. Okay. And this is revealed to us in the book of Enoch, chapter 106, in the book of Methuselah. But let's keep going. So let's talk about the primordial ruling bloodlines of Europe. Yes, let's talk about this. Now, what I found this very interesting, and if you guys want me to, I can speak more on these bloodlines. I'm not going to speak on a whole lot of them. I'm just going to speak on two of them, but we can get more in detail. Just let me know in the comments, and I can do a video particularly just on the primordial ruling bloodlines of Europe. What they call the blue bloods, right? The blue blood. So what is so interesting about these ruling bloodlines of Europe? Well, they said legends of fallen angels, the watchers mating with human women, trace back to ancient apocryphal texts like the book of Enoch. In esoteric tradition, these bloodlines, the Nephilim, are said to have survived the Great Flood and evolved into 7 distinct dynasties believed to have ruled the world's elite. Now, these aren't my words, these are their words. 7 purported bloodlines include the Merovingian, let me slow down. The Merovingian dynasty. The Merovingian dynasty was an early Frankish king historically linked to claims of sacred, divine right to rule. Legends posit that they are descendants of Merovech, believed by some esoteric traditions to have Nephilim or divine ancestry. So when you read on Merovech, he says that his mother was in the water swimming, right in the ocean, minding her own business. And then a Quintar, or this celestial being, or a Nephilim, came in and and took her away and impregnated her. Now that's what they say. And they said that just like how it says the sons of God came down to the daughters of man and created offspring, that's pretty much what this dynasty is saying that they have within them. And this is what gives them the right to rule. And they're pretty much what we would call a Nephilim or a demigod or something along those lines. They also have the House of Windsor, which is a British royalty. They have the House of the Rothschilds. They have the House of Doria, the House of Dan, the House of Habsburg. Now, that's another one we're going to talk about, the House of Habsburg, the Pharaonic bloodline. So they're saying the pharaohs of Egypt and the Illuminati 13 bloodline. So there's a whole lot of information out there about that. Like I said, we can talk about it more if you guys want to. But it says the Merovingians are often considered the founding bloodline of European royalty, claimed by some to descend from divine or supernatural origins. Excuse me. It says these bloodlines represent more than royalty. They are said to be the keepers of ancient power, knowledge, and the hidden history of man. So right here, this is a source. This comes from the World History Encyclopedia that gives us a little bit more history on the Merovingians. The Merovingians, the first royal house of the Franks. They said, who were they? They were the first dynasty of the early Franks and laid the foundation for medieval Europe. They said the Merovingian dynasty was founded by Clovis I around 481 when he united various Frankish tribes under the rule. It says by defeating the last Roman governor in Gaul at the Battle of Soissons in 486 CE, Clovis established Frankish control over most of what is now France, Belgium, and parts of Germany. His conversion to Catholic Christianity strengthened his authority, won the support of the church, and set the Franks apart from other Germanic kingdoms. All right, so he took control and he was the one to have ruled. So here it is. It says Clovis died around 511 CE, at which point Selenian lines were no longer being led by a certain Merovic, who, according to the 6th century historian Gregory Tours, was Clodio's son. However, the Chronicles of Frederick offer a different fantastical account of Merovic's parentage. It says in the legend, Merovic was the offspring of a sea beast known as a quinator that forced itself on his mother while she was out swimming and impregnated her. The quinator story was that which may have been an attempt to connect the Franks with the Greek mythology. So this whole thing of when you look at the Greek mythology, when you start at the beginning of Greek mythology, a lot of it has to do with a lot of these, what they would call celestial or mythical beasts, mating with the women and creating offspring, correct? And so they said also serves to give the Merovingians mythical origins, although there is no evidence that the story was told by the Merovingians, nor that it was ever widely accepted. So, of course, they're going to say that. But what they're saying is that this is what gave them the power, the authority, the knowledge. All of this was being the offsprings, and their dynasty, this dynasty right here, goes exactly with what the Bible says and also what the book of Enoch says about the sons of God mating with the daughters of man, correct? And these particular bloodlines, they don't say everybody's bloodline, but they specify these particular bloodlines are the ones that have this admixture within their blood, within their DNA, correct? So there was another line. So let me go back. I want you guys to look at this again. So these are the 7 distinct dynasties. So remember, we had the Merovingian dynasty, and then we have the House of Habsburg. They say one of the most influential royal houses of Europe, often intertwined with Templar lore and conspiracy circles for rumored non-human bloodlines. All right. So the Habsburg, if you guys want to take some time and research them, Now, what's the big deal about the Habsburg? Now, Charles V, he was a Habsburg, and the Habsburg were known for their jawline. They also were known for incestuous relationships. Okay, they were very inbred. All right, so they said right here, a dynasty, the inbred royals who ruled over Europe. The Habsburg were notorious for keeping power within the family through close intermarriage. While this preserved their wealth and dynastic claims, it also led to a legacy of genetic problems that affected many generations. The Habsburg jaw, mental health challenges, infertility, and early deaths. Despite the challenges, the Habsburg ruled for centuries and left a lasting impact on Europe and the world. Now, what's the biggest deal about them? Besides the fact that they ruled Europe, is the fact that they are the ones who sent Hernan Cortez over there to the Aztecs. Okay, so remember what I mentioned to you guys earlier. I talked to you guys about how they wanted to talk about the Aztecs. They want to make them seem like they were these very remedial, simple people, like they weren't very intelligent, like they just were living outside in huts. These people were very intelligent, and they were dealing with their gods, the fallen angels. And guess what? The Habsburgs were descendants of those fallen angels. That's why they allowed them to take control over their land. What happened? So in 1519, Hernan Cortez, a Spanish conquistador, set sail from Cuba with just 11 ships with around 600 men. Now we have to rethink what we've been taught. Okay, a lot of what they taught us, and a lot of my so-called Hebrew Israelite brothers and sisters out there, they have to really rethink what they are teaching, because these Native Americans and these Hispanics know exactly who they're dealing with and what they were dealing with. The problem was that these people were on the brink of death. Who am I talking about? I'm talking about the Spanish Empire, Hernan Cortez. They had just went through the Black Death, correct? Remember the Black Plague, the Black Death. It pretty much took out almost 70% of the population of Europe. So they all had to set sail to try to find somewhere to go. Where did they go? They went to the Americas in search for a new land, a new home, a new beginning, because they pretty much were dying off in Europe, okay, with this plague. Now, mind you, they were throwing trash out the windows. Their infrastructure, the Black Death came from fleas, correct? So they were really, dealing with a lot of bacterial and a lot of, infectious diseases that they were pretty much dying from. So where did they go? Was this by a chance? Did they just all of a sudden just set sail here? No, they knew exactly where they were going. They went to Moctezuma. They went to the Aztecs for help. Yes, they did. Why did they go to the Aztecs for help? Because they were dying, and the Aztecs, when I tell you, they had it going on. They had it going on. And we're going to talk about that in just a second. So they had like 2 palaces. Moctezuma had 2 palaces. Okay? That's why I'm trying to tell you guys to rethink how we were taught about the Aztecs, okay? They had 2 palaces. It says, according to the accounts written by Cortez, now this is written by Cortez himself and the soldiers, they said it featured multiple interior courtyards surrounded by column porticos, rooms with highly plastered stucco technozontal covered in woven mats, and walls adorned with tapestries made of rabbit fur, cotton, and bird feathers. They had botanical gardens and aviaries. The palace featured a massive, meticulously maintained botanical gardens with medicinal plants. They had medicinal plants, so they knew how to heal. They knew how to cure. Okay. They had Moctezuma was also maintained an extraordinary aviary populated by thousands of brightly colored tropical birds. So he had like a birdhouse. He had a zoo. A separate section of the palace complex housed a royal zoo containing jaguars, pumas, eagles, wolves, snakes, and other exotic animals. They were trading. They were over there. The only difference is this time they needed help and they came over there. They said the palace included a dedicated court chamber where a permanent council of elders met daily to advise Moctezuma on state matters, law, diplomacy, and matters of war and peace. They would have never made it across the ocean, the beach. They would have never made it. Okay? They would have never made it if they didn't allow them to. That's what I want you to know. They allowed them to come over there. And guess what? It says in 1519, Spanish conquistador Hernan Cortez and his men arrived in the Aztec Empire. They were awed by the magnificence of Moctezuma's capital and driven by greed, ambition, and desire for power. They were in awe. But instead of trying to start they were friends. At least Moctezuma thought they were friends. But, Hernan Cortez had his hand behind his back when he shook his hand. And how did he defeat them? He defeated them with biological warfare. All this stuff about these men coming over here with all their cannons and all, no, they came over there and they brought their smallpox. Okay. That was something that you have to build immunity up for that, and they didn't have the immunity to defend against that. But they knew that they had one way to defeat the Aztecs, and that was not only by being the descendants of their so-called deities, right? That's number one. But number two, they were sick and they needed help. So they brought them in and they took them in to care for them. But what did they do? Is they gave them their disease, which pretty much eradicated their pretty much took them out from being in charge, and they took over. But this whole narrative about these people not knowing who these people were, like this was their first time showing up, like they didn't know, they knew exactly who they were, and they knew who they were descendant of, the so-called white bearded gods, right? So anyway, I want to make sure I talk to you guys about the royal zoo. Remember, I said they had a royal zoo. They also had judicial buildings. They said the palace was a sprawling civic center where the daily bureaucracy of running an empire took place. The palace complex contained dedicated judicial chambers where elite judges sat daily to hear legal cases. This wasn't introduced to them by these Europeans. This is what the Aztecs were doing on their own. This is what they had set up on their own. And remember, it says that the conquistadors were jealous. They were in awe. They couldn't believe how beautiful everything was. Remember, they just came from a place they were just throwing trash out the window. They were throwing garbage, and they were throwing, all right. So they said the impact of the Spanish Empire. They said they spread Christianity. No, they did not. They developed cities, universities, and infrastructures. No, they did not. They exchanged of food, animals, and ideas. No. Rich culture and artistic legacy. No. No. They didn't. No. They want to give these. How dare they sit up here and say that they gave some form of contribution? They didn't give any contribution. They already had it. Only thing they did was they fled from their homeland because their homeland was in despair, was dying off. If you lose 70% of your population, 70%, how are you going to come over here and fight somebody? Talking about you about to go and take over somebody's homeland who's healthier than ever, and you just lost 70% of your. Stop it. I love the supremacy. The victor tells the tale, right? But anyway, let's talk about the Aztecs' ingenuity. their aqueducts, and their indoor plumbing. Yes, the Aztecs had indoor plumbing. So I want to share this with you guys before we get into Marduk and all that. But this is the knowledge that they traded off. This is what they were sacrificing their people for. They did all of this in exchange for all of this knowledge. They said a city was built on water. It says the Aztecs developed one of the most advanced water management systems in the ancient world. They said fresh water was brought into the city through aqueducts, canals, elevated causeways from springs and mountains miles away. So they say the aqueducts, channels and aqueducts carried fresh water, spring water into the heart of the city. Water distribution. Water was distributed to homes, palaces, temples, and public baths through a network of canals and pipes. Waste management. Underground drains carried waste and wastewater away from homes into designated collection channels. Do you guys hear me? This is the technology that the Aztecs had. The water system also supported chinapas, floating gardens, foundations of the Aztecs' agriculture and food securities. Now let's look at what the conquistadors wrote. This is what the conquistadors wrote. It says, yet the Aztecs had a highly advanced water and sanitation system. Rather than relying on medieval filth-filled privies, their capital, modern-day Mexico City, featured an elaborate network of aqueducts, clay pipes, and canal-based waste management. It says, what Spanish conquistadors wrote, I marveled at the great thoroughfares, at the bridges and causeways, and the abundance of fresh water which they had brought from such a distance. That's Hernan. They have running water in their house and every place. They had running water in their house and every place. So not just in the palaces, not just in the government buildings. This was everywhere. And they bathed twice a day, which is a thing marvelous to see. These people never bathed. They were throwing trash out the window. Who were the savages? They want to make it seem like the Native Americans were these savages. Mind you, you got Hernan Cortez and Bernal Diaz del Castillo telling us that these people were this sophisticated, advanced, clean, and very impressive. They bathed twice a day. They had indoor plumbing, which it was so sophisticated. It says homes were connected to sophisticated plumbing, clean water in, wastewater out. They said it was one of the largest and most advanced cities in the world. Its water system, hygiene, and engineering continue to inspire and amaze even today. Why don't we know about this? Why do they want to paint these people off like they were just savages, just walking around outside, living in teepees or something? You know what you were taught. These people were living, they were over there in Europe. They messed up over there. They came over here. Now, how were they able to take over here? Because of what? That skin. That white skin, because they knew that the fallen angels' offsprings, which were considered to be the gods, they had that skin tone. And they knew that they were the children of the gods. That's why they gave all their stuff up to them voluntarily, by the way. They couldn't take anything from them. Now, what they did do is they did sabotage them. I'm not going to make it sound like they just, gave everything to them, but they did sabotage these people. But I want to make sure you guys understand that they knew who they were because they felt as though that they matched the description of the white bearded god. Who? Viracocha, Kukulkan, Quetzalcoatl, and he's also found in Africa, the Orishas, right? So let's talk about who this is and what it's all about. Let's talk about Marduk, the deity Marduk. Okay. Jeremiah 50:2, it says, declare ye among the nations and publish, and set up a standard, publish and conceal not. Say Babylon is taken, Baal is confounded, Marduk is broken in pieces. Her idols are confounded, her images are broken in pieces. This is the first time we hear of Marduk. Marduk is Marduk, okay? And this is the first time this is what they called him. You know, you're not supposed to say any god's name, any other deity's name. So maybe this was a play on his name. Maybe this was a Hebrew variant, whatever. The thing is his name. He is the chief god of the Babylonians. It says in Babylonian religion, Marduk Baal was the supreme god, patron of Babylon, and ruler of the gods and the universe. He was not the son of Baal. Marduk is Baal. So he's Baal. So every time you guys say Baal, this is who you're talking about, is Marduk. Now let's take a look a little further. Let's look at the blue letter just to make sure. So when you go into the Strongs, and this is the same scripture, we got Marduk, the chief deity of the Babylonians in the time of Nebuchadnezzar. And what do they have down here? Marudaku. So his name is Marduk. Right? Marduk, or what we say Marduk. Same deity, just different way of saying the name. So who is Marduk? He is the Babylonian, the chief god of the Babylonians. He is supposed to be so powerful, but the thing is, nobody knows who he is. That is done by design. They don't want us to know who he is because they don't want us to wake up to what he's been out here doing, how they've been praising and worshiping him forever. They've never stopped worshiping him. You know, they give you Zeus, they give you all these other names, Odin, Woden, Zeus, you know, you hear the name Baal, but you don't hear the name Marduk. So according to the World History Encyclopedia, Marduk was a patron god of Babylon, as well as the mediator who regulated the order of the cosmos. He was associated with water, the storm, magic, and wisdom. He was the national god of Babylon and was considered the highest ranking in the Babylonian pantheon. Okay. So his most fabulous tale is how he defeated the chaos monster Tiamat and created the world from her body. He was the chief god of the Babylonian Empire and the patron of the Babylon's Isagalia temple, the New Year festival Akitu. And we're going to talk about this New Year festival Akitu. Just give me some time, because guess what? His New Year's festival Akitu is April 1st. And guess what? April 1st just passed away not too long ago. And they celebrated Akitu over there just a few months ago. They're still doing it. And they tell you that they've been doing it for almost 7,000 years. When I tell you, these people have not stopped worshiping their gods. They have not put away their gods. They have not lost their way of worship. They have not lost their customs. They have not gotten rid of them. They're still the same people that they were at the beginning. So here we go again. Marduk in Mesopotamia religion is the chief god of the city Babylon again. He has his own writings in the Enuma Elish. He relates to Marduk, which Nebuchadnezzar relates to Marduk's rise to such preeminence that he was the god of gods, even though that of the day is set on the diverse attributes. Now, remember, he had a war with Tiamat. We're going to talk about Tiamat in a second. Now, they say Marduk's chief temple at Babylon were Isagia and Intimanaki, a ziggurat with the shrine of Marduk on top. His planet was Jupiter. Well, his star, they call it his star, or his, what we call a planet, was Jupiter. And he had a special dragon. So it says Marduk was later known as Baal. So right there lets us know again, if you need more, Marduk is Baal. So what we're doing is we're looking at the history of Baal, and we're breaking down who he is throughout history, so that way we can know who he is. His sacred animal is the dragon. So when you see these other groups out here and they all talk about they are the children of the dragon, or they use the dragon as their name or some form of identity or their logo, they are paying homage to Marduk, because that's his sacred animal. It's the dragon. And the Bible tells us about him. He's Baal, and he has the dragon. And if you say that they're the children of the dragon, they get the power of the dragon. All this stuff about entering the dragon, all that stuff goes back to him. Now, let's talk about the Enuma Elish. Those of you that are familiar with the Enuma Elish, that is the Babylonian epic of creation. So, this was datings and writings and talking about Marduk and how he fought against Tiamat, and how Tiamat and him had a war, and how he was granted the title of King of the Gods. Okay, so that's in the Enuma Elish. So here's more images of Marduk. He is what? He is a bearded god, a white bearded god. Look at how he stands here. He is the king of the gods, and this is him again. This is where we get this white bearded god from. We get it from him. He is the one that started all of it. It's not Cesare Borgia. It goes back further than him and is much more complicated than that. Look at his symbol right here. This also goes to the god Anu, but he also holds on to all the symbols. The crescent moon, and we're going to dig more deep into his symbols. Now remember, Tiamat was a dragon, and he slayed her and was able to become in charge. All right. So when you guys look here, this is what Tiamat is said to have looked like. This is an actual image of Marduk and him killing Tiamat, him overcoming her. When you look at Tiamat to the right over here, and you look to the left, they say that this Statue of Liberty represents Tiamat. Yeah, so the Roman variant of this, so when you see the Statue of Liberty, it's Tiamat. Okay, same thing. It's just, she has evolved over the years, but this is pretty much the same being. Okay, representation, archetype, equivalent. Okay. All right, so let's get back on Marduk again, because this is who we're talking about, this bearded god, right? So-called god. Now, when you look at him again, he is known to have, these are his sigils and symbols. So in the Enuma Elish, which is his writings, he is Marduk, the great lord who created the gods, who established the earth, who commanded is on high, whose star is brilliant among the gods. All right, so they gave him the credit, even though that he is a creation himself. Okay, so we know that he is not the most high God, but this is what they want. This is the title that they gave him, correct? Now, I know a lot of you guys out there, and I'm going to have to hurt a lot of you guys' feelings, but that spade that you guys play, that card game, that spades, that's his symbol. Yeah, it came from him. I know. I couldn't believe it either. When I researched it, I was like, what? The spades? You really don't know what you're looking at and how deep things go, or where they come from, or where they originate from. Something as simple as a spade is called a maru. And this is his primary symbol. See how much stuff can how things get intertwined. Something as simple as a card game. And I'm going to talk more about the card game later in a second. But here we have his divine beast. So his divine beast is a dragon. So when everybody talks about the dragon, this is representation of him. This winged disc, this is his symbol. He also has an 8-pointed star and a swastika. So those who are walking, they walk around with this swastika, they knew what they were doing. They just didn't pull this swastika up out of thin air. This was all paying homage to who? Marduk and the ziggurat. So whenever you see a ziggurat or a step pyramid, that is going back to Marduk or Baal, okay? Again, we have the spade right here. So he had the spade symbol, so it evolved into the playing card spade. But at first, it looked like this, and then it evolved into what we played with the playing cards. And a lot of people who are, a lot of us grew up, a lot of people couldn't play card games. We used to look at them and say, I thought it was because of gambling. They say you're not supposed to gamble. So I used to think people couldn't play. And these are in Black households, right? In our households, they would say that you can't play card games. And, these Christian households, and they say you can't play card games, and you don't really think about it. But this is one of the main reasons why they don't want you playing the card games, because the symbol on the card goes back to this particular deity. And that's what I've uncovered right now. The spade. I don't know where the club goes to. I haven't looked at the club. I haven't looked into the diamond. I haven't looked into that. But guess what? I've looked into the spade, and the spade goes back to Marduk. So whenever you pull out that spade, that how when you play in spade, the 2 of spades beats an ace of spades, right? But the joker, I guess that means the joke's on you, the joke's on me, right? But anyway, so let's get into Marduk's. He has the Jupiter is his star or his planet. The Babylonians identified Jupiter as the star Marduk. It is called Sagni-Gar, Nibiru, or Selpeia in the text. Jupiter was the brightest wandering star and symbol of kingship, justice, and divine order. All right, symbolic period cycle between 11 and 12 years, visible to the naked eye, associated with the kingship and the god Marduk. So he had a planet. His symbol is the spade. He also had the dragon, and that goes all back to Marduk, which goes back to Baal. Again, the Maru and the Marduk. So this is Maru and Marduk. This is the Maru. This is how this was his symbol, which evolved into what we have today as the spade. Okay, so this is just a little bit more. This is also his symbol again, the ziggurat, and we're going to talk about the ziggurats a little bit more. He had the 8-pointed star, and he also has the 6-pointed star as well. And a lot of people I know, a lot of my Hebrew Israelites out there, they say that that's our star, but they, just like with the grove, right? The Most High said to plant thee a grove. Okay, that was in the Bible. It was commanded. But guess what? Then he came back and said, hey, don't do that no more. Why? Because they came in and they took it and they polluted it just like they did with this star. Okay. This is Ishtar, the goddess Ishtar, and she has what? The 6-pointed star right there. Okay. So it's right here, and it's letting us know that she had it, and that they didn't took it, and it's no longer, if it was ours, it's no longer ours anymore, because they didn't took it and they polluted it. Now remember, this goes on, this is not on Jupiter, but this is found on top of Saturn. Okay, so let's talk about a little bit more Baal. So Baal, the Lord of the heavens, so-called Lord of the heavens, he is the counterfeit Lord, counterfeit Christ, false. He has different titles, different names. It's Baal Shaman, Baal Hadid. Other names is Adid, Baal Zebub, Raman, Pidar, Raplu, Alayan, Baal Zephon, Jupiter. So whenever you say the name Jupiter, they're paying homage to Baal. That's not by coincidence that the name Jupiter is the name that we still call that planet. Okay. Baal Shaman, Baal Shamim, Baal Shamin, Baal Shamim, Baal Shamam, meaning Lord of the Heavens. This is a title that was applied to the sky gods, particularly Haddon in Syria and Phoenicia. Okay. Baal Hadid and added the Canaanite and Mesopotamian storm rain god. Okay. Rider of the of the clouds, he who rides on the clouds, Prince, Lord of the earth, victorious. These are all, and this is blasphemous. He is not no Most High. He's none of this, but I'm just letting you know he definitely ain't no Most High. But anyway, they say his domain is in the sky in the cosmic order. He's the bringer of rain and life. Okay, so that's what they were worshiping and giving this title to this particular Lord G God, right? So it says Baal in many names and forms was the divine power behind storms, fertility in land, and the order of heavens, worshipped across Canaan, Syria, Mesopotamia, and beyond. Now you guys see this here. This is the crescent moon symbol. Where do we see this symbol right here? We see this symbol a lot, and we're going to talk about that too. Just like how we saw that spades, just like we saw the swastika, the dragon, just like we see the planet Jupiter. Well, guess what? He also has this crescent moon and symbol as well that goes back to him. So whenever you see this crescent moon being represented, know that this is going to Baal. Okay, so it says Ugaritic seal impressions, 14th, 13th century BCE. The Ugaritic seal shows Baal. So this is evidence because it's another group of word people who want to say they don't worship him, but we're talking about Islam. They have the same symbol. However, the Ugaritic seal shows Baal had it holding a staff topped with a crescent. The crescent was the emblem representing his dominion over the sky, storm, and rain. Baal had it is depicted with the crescent as a part of his iconography, often standing on a bull, symbol of strength and storm, wielding thunder and power. This is the Ugaritic text. He rumbles in the heavens like Hadid, the bull, his weapon, and our lightning flashes. He shakes the earth with his storms. So this is from the Ugaritic text. Now, right here is the crescent moon in Mecca. Do you think they just don't know this? That this is a coincidence? They know. Like I told you, they never stop worshiping their gods. The only people that don't know are us. But we're waking up, and we're going to share this information and knowledge amongst others, so that way they can wake up, so they won't be lost in this sea of lies, right? So the star and the crescent has long been associated with the Ottoman Empire. It became a prominent emblem on Ottoman flags, coins, and architecture, symbolizing rule, guidance, and protection. However, remember, Baal had it first. He had it. You see that Baal had it. He had it first. And then we see here, this is Marduk again with his spade. He also has the crescent moon. He has the spade. And this is a crescent symbol, was later adopted in Islamic architecture. Why are they using it in their architecture? Islam. Because it's all the same. They all worship the same God. It says it is commonly placed atop mosque and domes as a sign of faith and devotion to Allah. Allah is just Baal. All right. So remember I talked about the Akitu festival. We talked about the Akitu festival. It mentioned that was whose festival? That's Marduk's festival. Well, guess what? The Babylonian Akitu festival, a sacred 10 to 12 day spring celebration, was a grand 10 to 12 day spring New Year celebration dedicated to the supreme god Marduk. This is nothing that is underground. This is nothing that's buried. This is out. Everybody's able to see it. It's all out in the open. However, they say a living tradition. The Assyrian Akutu festival is the ancient Mesopotamian spring festival, New Year, celebrated annually on April 1st. In 2026, the community welcomes the year 6,776 In the Assyrian calendar, festivals typically features vibrant parades, traditional folk music, dancing, and cultural food fairs. So they put the word traditional there. I guess that's supposed to change it. Oh, well, this is traditional. This is our tradition. No, you're worshiping Marduk. This day was specifically set aside for Marduk, and you made sure. And they're telling us 6,776. They've been doing this. If you Google the Akitu Festival, they've been doing it. They do it every year. And here's a celebrating one of the oldest celebrations in the world, is what it says. It says Eastern Christians on there. How are you Christians when you have, look at this? Look at this. This is Ishtar's gate in the back. I mean, this is why we do this research and study, because these people are trying to play it. They're trying to make us think that they're really these. They try to make us feel like we're like we don't know what they're doing. They over here worshiping Marduk, right? Star, they got this all over them. Let's just keep. Here is another one. This is a part of their festival. Again, this is them. This is them worshiping and praising their God. This is a festival. They all are out there still worshiping their deity, Marduk. And Ishtar's, this is her Babylon. This is all set up. And that's why they call it Mystery Babylon, but it's not a mystery to us because it's still out there. They're worshiping and they're celebrating every year for all to see. All right, so when I go back and I show you guys this again, I just wanted to showcase to you guys how Marduk, showing this to you all before, Marduk is Zeus, he's Jupiter, and he's also Odin. Okay, same deity, he's just name just changed, still the same. So in Daniel 3, Nebuchadnezzar the king made an image of gold whose height was 60 cubits and the breadth thereof 6 cubits. He set up in the plain of Dura in the province of Babylon. So right here lets us know that this image that Nebuchadnezzar had erected or set up was the image of who? It was the image of Marduk, and it was 6 cubits. So it says here, whose height was 60 cubits and the breadth thereof 6 cubits. He set up in the plain of Dura. All right, so right there, it lets us know, if we look at it in the Good News translations, which is just a simple translation, they let us know that it's about 90 feet. So this image, this golden image that Nebuchadnezzar erected was 90 feet tall of Marduk. So remember we talked about the ziggurats. So what's the big deal about the ziggurats? Well, we see these ziggurats still all around the world, correct? And the ziggurats is pretty much how you worship Marduk. These are pretty much his temples, and these are pretty much his houses. This is how they worshipped him, was by these ziggurats. So if people want to pretend like they don't know what these ziggurats, not the pyramids, but an actual ziggurat, these were particularly for Marduk. Okay, it says ziggurats are a form of monumental architecture celebrating in ancient Mesopotamia. They're also found in Mesoamerica, correct? And it says, which usually had a rectangular base and was built in a series of tiers up to the platform from which a sacred was raised. The ziggurat was an artificial mountain for the meeting of the god to dwell in the highest, purest heavenly heavens. So this was a house for these deities. It says, as noted, the ziggurat's purpose was to elevate the primary servant of that deity or god to a meet and do creation point between earth and the heavens. The gods were understood to live high above, and so to comply with them relative, they needed to have a structure on which can be as good. This is written, I don't know if this was translated. It says, caused the gods to ascend in the sky and was thought to open from earth, residing in his or her statue to the temple at the top of the ziggurat. All right. So they had Herodotus, who was a historian, right? So Herodotus says in circa 484, 425, discusses the purpose of the ziggurats, claiming that the god Marduk of Babylon, referred to by Herodotus as Zeus, was believed to come down to the temple at the top of the daily. So this is what they're saying. They're saying that he came down daily to the ziggurat to sleep with a woman who lived in the bottom of Marduk and Marduk's ziggurat and was kept in the temple only for women. This custom, as Herodotus suggests, was in keeping with the belief that the god would bless a sexual intercourse with a chosen woman to ensure the fertility of the land. It is also possible, as scholar Sigmund Burney notes, that the ziggurat served the purpose of safety and permanence. So right here, they're letting us know that this was a meeting between the heavens and the earth, and they erected these ziggurats up so that these fallen angels, or Marduk, for instance, will come down and will be housed in this area up here in the sky. Now we know that the Tower of Babel was destroyed, which was one of his temples, but they just came back and they rebuilt it. And as we see here, we see in Indonesia these types of ziggurats. We see in Mexico, we see in some in Egypt, the Mayans. They had the dragons. There go symbols of dragons with the Mayans, with the Balinese. They had the ziggurats, and they also had the ziggurats. Same here. This is a great ziggurat that was built. It's called Edzna, a site with magnificent architecture complexes such as the Great Apocalypse and impressive constructions above all of the building of the 5 floors. So they said Edna's inhabitants developed a complex water management system to secure a year-round supply, and their city became a powerful regional capital between 400 and 1200 AD. So right here, they were visited by some form of an angel, a fallen angel that came down, because that's the only reason why you'll build this. There is no other reason why they would. Herodotus paid homage to Zeus, which is also the equivalent of Marduk, and said that that's why they were building these, was for when they came down. Now, was he the only fallen angel? No, there's multiple other fallen angels that were coming down. But remember, Marduk was just the king of the gods, correct? So these were just homes pretty much for the fallen angels. Now, remember, I talked to you guys about that King Nebuchadnezzar statue that he had built that was about 90 feet tall. Well, this so-called Christ the Redeemer statue, and this one's found in Brazil, is about 98 feet tall as well. So only thing they're doing is they're pretty much doing the same thing that they have always been doing. They've always taken this deity and created these big old huge monoliths, iconic statues of him. Now remember, this is what they say Nebuchadnezzar built one that was 90 feet. That was back with Nebuchadnezzar, and here we are modern day times today. This Christ the Redeemer statue is about 100 feet, 98 to 100 feet. Same thing. Now I want you guys to take a look at these crosses and these images here. I thought this was pretty interesting. The Pope right here. Look here. So this is Marduk right here. Either this one's not Marduk or Ninurta, but they have this the cross right here. They always talk about this cross. This has nothing to do with the Bible. This has to do with Marduk again. Look at this cross here on his chest, and then look here at the Pope. There, same exact cross. And then look over here at one of his Knights of Malta wearing the Maltese cross. They call it the Maltese cross. And right there, as you see, it came from Babylon, and they just took it and they just continued it on. Same thing right here. The Maltese cross is here, and there they are again wearing it. Remember, look there, they got it all over their clothes. Look at the hat. All of this is going back to who? It's all going back to Marduk. Look at these symbols that he has. This is some cardinal or somebody. Look at these symbols he has here, his garb. Pretty much the same symbols right up here. And we see this again, these crosses, which they want to make it seem like these come from the Bible. All of this comes from the so-called god Marduk or Baal. When you look here at this image of them worshiping, it looks just like what we would consider to be Marduk, dressed up, sitting down on the throne. He's down at his feet, worshiping this image, this false image. And there go the cross again. You know, all of this plays a very important role because they try to play these games as if they don't know, they try to play this game like they're not doing what we are. It's obvious what they're doing, but they're going to play this denial. Like, oh no, we're not doing that. Yes, you are. We see it. And these archways that we see here, if you guys probably seen me talk about these arches, because Baal has a pillar and he also has arches. Okay. And this is his temple. So his temple had these archways, and his temple also had pillars. This is just one of his many temples. And right here, this is the temple of Baal. And this is the Arch of Palmyra. Now, these archways and these pillars seem to make their way, and this is some of their the Catholics' images, but they seem to make their way on their churches, on their cathedrals, on their temples. Look here. Look inside this this temple, this church. And if you see here, they have these pillars right there, the pillar, and the archway. And when you look here at the top, pillar, same thing. It looks like Ishtar's gate. When you look here at the bottom, which one is Babylonian and which one is Catholic? Well, when you look at the bottom, this is what the Babylonians had. The Babylonians had this is what they had. They had the arch with the pillars, and if you look here, it's the exact same as what they have here in this Catholic Church. This is what they said the Ishtar gate is, the two pillars and then the archway. And look at how this church is designed exactly the same way. Again, here's a little bit more, the pillars of Baal and the archway. Right there again, the pillars, all of this. And then they have the image right up there, the white bearded god. And who did we all say that is? That's nothing but Baal. That's nothing but Marduk. And then in 2 Kings 10, 2 and 7. So I have different translations for the blue letter, and it says, and they break down the image of Baal, and they break down the house of Baal, and made it a drought house until this day. So they're saying they break down the image of Baal. So what is the image of Baal? So when we look at these other translations, they all say it's a pillar. of Baal. The New King James, the NLT, the NIV. Well, this one says sacred stone, but this one says pillar of Baal, pillar of Baal, pillar of Baal. So, or a column. So pretty much the symbol or the image of Baal to represent Baal is a what? It's a column. So these columns or these pillars are representations of Baal. And this archway is also a representation of Ishtar or Baal as well. Excuse me a second. I got to go back forward. Yeah, okay. But all right, guys. So that concludes my presentation. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys have any questions, please have them ready. I'm going to go through the comment section, but that's the end of my presentation. All right, so let me go ahead and remove that. Let's see what we got over here. Let me see like what comments we may have. Questions, if you got any questions, comments. You said Babylon disguised as Yahushua's assembly. Yes, that's why it's called Mystery Babylon. You said you're right. First image, Jesus, R200 AD. The artist's name is unknown. Christians in Roman catacombs and house Duchess Europa's and names unknown because Christianity was legal then. Yes. He said the God of the Bible, not the Quran. A true name of God is the one who has lost many battles but continues with the war and walks with God. A true man of God, excuse me. Same cross at the cake. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. If you look at those pointed hats, I'll remember about your children on the coming Sunday. I'm not sure. Let's come from something else. It was struck down by lightning a few months ago. You guys must be talking about something else. Oh, well, thank you so much, Judah Rhymes and Ben Israel. We got a new member. Okay. Got to make you a video. Like to introduce our new members, guys, please. If you can, new sponsors to the channel. If you guys continue to support the channel, we can pull out more information, get access to more information, and share it with you guys. So thank you so much for becoming a member. I truly appreciate it. You said you already know all of this. Okay, well, a lot of people don't know, so we have to help other people. You said, oh, the cube. Thank you. You said useless information has nothing to do with what we're doing today. Well, it does. It has a lot to do. That's the problem, that it's useless to you because you don't know how to use it. Because you're an ape. You know, I don't know why you would know. Monkeys don't know anything. You said, what this got to do with Black folk? It's not used as info. They're worshiping Satan and it needs to be exposed. It ain't culture. Thank you, Curly Girl 5061. It's not useless. Is she going to be condemned, the Chinese and Hindus? Yes. Next. Yeah, why not? You say, hey, sis, bless. How are you doing today? Much respect to all the work you are doing for all our peoples. Thank you so much. Doing great. Why do you care? It's their culture. It's not their culture. They are putting their culture on us. Okay, so the thing is that if somebody tells you something is hot, it's a warning to let you know not to go over there and touch it. That's their business. That's true. But you have to be aware of what's going on. Why don't you want to be aware of what's going on? You said, LOL, all them sheiks know what it is. They're deceiving the people into Satanism. Exactly. I don't know why you're in my chat. If you felt it was useless, you keep asking why. I don't understand why you're over here. I guess it must have was so informative. You had to make sure you had. This is an evolution day, so this is not for you. You said the Pope has a staff. Yeah, they all have staffs like that. Yes. You said you're full of admiration. Thank you. I try to prepare these very well for people, for everyone to go back and do some research and study. But let's see. I think I got all my. Hey, Most High bless Elder Quinai. Thanks for tuning in. Just about done with the presentation. Are you trying to convert the world? Am I trying to? No, I'm not here to convert the world, but I am trying to share knowledge with people, the truth seekers. This is all about truth seeking. You know what I'm saying? You can't, if you don't know the past, how can you be prepared for the future? It just makes sense to me to know that there's a lot of, like I said, information that's out there. A lot of people don't believe any of this stuff is even real. A lot, like my guy up here who's a big atheist, they think all this stuff is fake. And the thing is that if it's so fake, then these people are still holding on these traditions. They're still utilizing these temples. They're still worshiping these deities, and they're still celebrating. And they have not lost their customs, and they have not changed it. Isn't that interesting to know? And it also proves what the Bible has been saying all along. They don't like for me to they don't like when you to take the history and put it with the Bible and showcase what the Bible's been saying. The Bible's been telling us to look out for X, Y, and Z. And then when you go out and you find X, Y, and Z, somebody wants to tell you that's just a bad spirit. He said it's all in the blood in the name of Yahweh Shai. Yahweh is salvation. That's right. All right. Well, guys, if you have any questions that you guys want to ask me or anything you guys want to, hold on, let's see. What do I have here? The Sister Club. You became a member. Thank you so much for becoming a member. Thank you, Sister Club. Okay, that's the Sister Club again. And then I have Judah Rhymes Ben Israel. So I have two people that became. Just want to make sure I let everybody know that I thank you all so much for supporting. You said Johannes, whose real name is John Lightborn, is the leader of the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge. Light bearer Lucifer, exactly. You'll be surprised how hidden this information is. A lot of this stuff a lot of people probably are aware of this stuff, but I'm just talking about Marduk and Baal because people still are talking about Cesare Borgia, and people say, well, why is this important? Well, people keep trying to say that this is Cesare Borgia. This isn't Cesare Borgia. This so-called white image of Jesus is actually the image of Baal. I would think that would be very important to know. To say, hey, and how do we know that is Baal? Because we have the image of Marduk, and all of it goes back to a white bearded god, and how these so-called white bearded gods have been in all these different ancient civilizations and have been noted for giving knowledge and also coming down and being with their women. All praises to Yah for the truth. Thank you. It's judgment time, exactly. Only I can open the 7 seals. Don't know what that means. All right. But all right, guys. So I'm going to be back again. If there's any particular topics you guys want me to really break down and speak on, what you say here, you said the same white bearded God is the Saturday Sabbath. Yeah. It's the Saturday. Well, not the Sabbath, but the God Saturday. You mean Saturn, I guess is what you mean. Not the Sabbath, but the Saturn, yes. Why all the hostility? I appreciate all your work, and it's definitely important. How far back do the Mexicans go? I was told probably the Tower of Babel. What is their name biblically? Thanks. I don't know what you mean by the hostility. There's no hostility on my end, but thank you so much for tuning in. You said how far back do the Mexicans go? Well, the Mexicans go back to the Aztecs. The Aztecs are an ancient people. They go back pretty far. Yeah, go back to the Amaru Khan, all that good stuff. So yeah, the Mexicans, they go back very far. Yes, Saturn, that's right. You said you got one question. What's your question? You thought I was going to touch on the descendants and families more? You about the descendants and the families. I said that. I said if you guys wanted me to talk more on the families, on the seven royal bloodlines, I can do a presentation exactly on them. That's what I was saying. Who or what is AI? That's a good question. Mm-hmm. That's a good question. Who or what is AI? If anybody wants me to drop the link, I can. If you want to talk about that. What you say? You said no. She is trying to wake up our people from this illusion we're living in. Yes, that's exactly what I'm trying to do. Trying to showcase the connection of how things intertwine and how it all links together. Pretty sure all these people share the same gifts but different names. True. Gods by different names. Okay. The seven bloodlines. Yeah, I said that. I said that if you guys want me to, I can talk more about the seven bloodlines. I can do a video on that specifically. I can. You see Ecclesiastes 47:21. So the kingdom was divided, and out of Ephraim ruled a rebellious kingdom. Chickasaw made rebel in the Choctaw language. No. Before the tribes of Choctaw were two different tribes. They were on one entity. No, I don't agree with that. Where did the gods go? Oh, the gods, well, it depends on what you mean by the gods. Because some of them, you know, they are like what Elder Quinai had mentioned here. He said, who is or what is AI? I can go down a long rabbit hole with that, okay? But pretty much what happens is these so-called gods become what we would call interdimensional beings, okay? Or what we would call, interdimensional beings, or demons, demonic spirits, you know, being of a mortal woman and an immortal, the body, the flesh dies, but that spirit lives on, and it still has a presence. So that's what we would call like a bad spirit or interdimensional being, things like that. So we can, and we'll have conversations about that too. I see you're ready to talk about the Choctaw. That'll be for another conversation. But all right, guys. So I am going to be coming back at you guys again. What's this here? Oh, thank you so much for the super chat. You say, hello, sister. You seem like a nice lady. Been watching your videos in the shadows, just showing support. Well, thank you so much. I am very nice. Thank you so much for the support. I truly appreciate it, Native Aaron. I truly appreciate your help. I do. You guys don't know how much you guys support, what your support does to me. You say, great build today. Thank you, Jody Southworth 369. Thank you so much. I'm glad you were able to take something from that. You know, the portals might be where they are. Oh, yeah. Well, you know, a lot of people speak on the Bermuda Triangle, so you know that could be a area where the portals are. But yeah, we can definitely get into those types of conversations more about the Bermuda Triangle. You said you and your people want to bet a sizable wager that Mississippi is the land of Mississippi. And why? Why Mississippi? Very Eurodite you are. Why Mississippi? What makes Mississippi so special? My family's from Mississippi. I want to know why out of everywhere, why is that the land? Mississippi. But again, I have some up and coming videos. We got a bag on it. Okay. That's a different perspective. All right, though. Like I said, so we talked about the Cesare Borgia myth. We talked about how that links to the deity Marduk. That's who they are worshiping, and we disclosed that for you guys today. And I'm going to be talking more about the modern day, you know, small hats. Where they originated from. Talking about the Nethinim. You guys familiar with the Nethinim? How they were temple workers, how they pretty much worshiped. So we got a little that we're going to get into that, and then also Japheth. We got to get into Japheth as well as Esau. I got to talk about Esau. And the Canaanite coalition that they made. They made a coalition with the Canaanites. He asks, are you trying to convert the world, reach the world, my sisters? Well, we're scattered all around the world. And my thing is that I speak for the truth seekers, people who are trying to find the truth, you know, people who are just trying to get to the bottom of things, trying to understand, you know, what's going on. And a lot of people get up here and they'll tell you and act like there is no information, like there is no evidence, when the evidence is staring us right in our faces. So the thing is that I know that we made this video and we were able to make these connections, and these weren't just no run-of-the-mill connections. These are real, you know, strategic, logical connections we made with Marduk, Baal, and how he links to this image of so-called this false counterfeit Christ. You said the truth is you're human. Okay. That's right. But all right, guys. So I thank you all again for your support. Thanks for tuning in. I had fun. We were live for almost 2 hours. Not too bad. We were able to get through it. I didn't want to make it too long and drawn out. I wanted to make sure that it was real simple so that people can go back, look at the information, research, and see how all that connects. Now, if you guys want me to, I can do a video talking about the 7 royal bloodlines and how they all link back to a celestial being. We can get more into that too. So, you said you never heard that about Noah. Yes, yes. Noah. Oh, yes. I know what you're talking about. Yes, Noah was a albino. He was in the book of Enoch. They talk about you know, how his father Lamech was afraid of him, and Methuselah had to go to Enoch and ask. You know, he had to verify. He had to verify with his with his father. He said, "Hey, is he part of the offspring?" You know, so they had it. He had to go verify, and he found out that no, he was not of the offspring of the fallen, but he looked like one. So what we did was we got a resemblance or an image of what the fallen angel's offspring looked like. Okay, and Noah resembled that, and you can find that in the book of Enoch 106. Okay. But all right, guys, I see, you know, that's why I share this information, because my sis here wouldn't have known that. You know, some people say, well, I already heard all this stuff. Okay, well, you're not the only person. We have people who are not there yet, you know, and haven't heard it all. Okay, so we have to take steps to lead up to, you know, the stuff that you haven't heard. You know, some people been with me for a while and I have spoken on this, and some people haven't. So that's what this is all about, you know, giving information and knowledge to everybody. But all right, guys, again, I don't want to keep repeating myself, but I had fun. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I'll see you all again later, and thanks again for your support. Most High bless.